Đình Tuấn xin hân hạnh đến với quý vị cùng chương trình fbnc câu chuyện bất động sản. Thưa quý vị, trong số phát sóng ngày hôm nay, chúng ta sẽ cùng thảo luận về chủ đề xu hướng phát triển bền vững. Xin mời quý vị cùng Đình Tuấn gặp gỡ hai vị khách mời đặc biệt. Anh Nigel Smith, giám đốc điều hành khối dịch vụ dự án khu vực châu Á của CBRE, chị Melissa Merriweather, điều phối viên khu vực phía Nam của Hội đồng Công trình xanh Việt Nam. Trong số này chúng ta sẽ cùng thảo luận về 3 nội dung chính sau đây. Xu hướng phát triển bền vững tại châu Á, phát triển bền vững trong bối cảnh Việt Nam, vận dụng yếu tố xanh trong tiếp thị và cho thuê văn phòng. Chào mừng quý vị đến với phần 1 của chương trình FBNC câu chuyện bất động sản. Trong phần 1, chúng ta sẽ cùng thảo luận về xu hướng phát triển bền vững tại châu Á. Nigel, it is said that going green is a trend right now. So can you share with me what is this trend in Asia?
Certainly. Yes, it is definitely a growing trend in Asia. We've seen a number of the developers and investors approach the certification modeling as a way of helping them attract better quality tenants. The areas that have been growing fastest are China, partly because of the size of the market, but also other countries such as South Korea. In Hong Kong, it has its own accreditation system, but they all aim to attract a better quality type of tenant, and the developers are using this reasonably successfully in attracting tenants, but it's still in its early days.
So this trend is growing rapidly in Asia, so in developed country. Then how about developing countries?
Well, in developed countries, if you take America, where LEED has really been grown out of, CB Richard Hurst, we manage a number of buildings, and we look at analysing the two groups, LEED and non-LEED. We're starting to see that there's a definite trend that more investors and developers want to implement LEED certified items within their building to achieve a higher accreditation. The demand is coming from the occupier side, but I'm pleased that the developers and investors are embracing the additional costs, and the costs are certainly coming down. America has LEED, and then in Europe there are other certification models, but in Asia they seem to be taking the LEED certification as the main driver.
So, Melissa, Nigel just tell us about the trend in Asia, in the world, and how about Vietnam?
Vietnam's actually following the same trend, we can say. A lot of developers are becoming interested in LEED because of its international cachet. We've also been developing a certification system based on LEED specifically for Vietnam called Lotus, and we're finding that more and more developers and owners are looking to that as a possibility as well.
So besides LEED, any other accreditation that you think that Vietnamese developer they are now following?
We have about 5 projects now registered with Lotus, with the Vietnam Green Building Council. A couple of developers who have properties in Singapore, or maybe a region-wide portfolio, are looking at Greenmark, the Singaporean certification system. So it's really those 3 right now, LEED and Greenmark and Lotus. They're each a little different. Each one would be right for a certain project, maybe a little better than another, but they're all a bit similar as well.
You mentioned about 5 projects in Vietnam, so most of them are in Ho Chi Minh City or in Hanoi, or in both?
I think we're seeing a few more projects down in the Ho Chi Minh City area, and that's partly because there's a strong trend for manufacturers to do a certification. That's probably the leading group in Vietnam right now. Office buildings a little bit less, and there's more manufacturing in the south, so that definitely pushes this region a little bit more ahead of the others.
So we're talking about there's such a trend going green. So from when you start to see that Vietnamese developers start to look at the green features in their building, from which year or why it's called a trend?
Well, I actually have two answers for that. I think older Vietnamese architecture was very green, in fact. So I like to see it as coming back to green in Vietnam. As a new trend, coming around the second time, really only a couple of years. It's very new here, and that's one of the things that makes it very exciting because it's a very fresh topic.
All right. So, Nigel, people like talking about if you want to do it green, you must start from the beginning, from the design phase. So, are there any solutions for those buildings already built up to go green?
Yes, there are. We call it retrofitting. And there are a number of opportunities for developers or investors of buildings to upgrade, if you want to call it that. Really, what they tend to do is look at the utility supplies as a primary source of making these savings. But there are many other areas, increased natural ventilation. But in some cities, take for China, some of those options aren't really viable because of the pollution that might be accounted for example. But if you look at the power sources and the distribution of power within the building, it's relatively easy to make some quick, easy wins within the buildings, and the developers and the occupiers can benefit from those immediately.
So can they still achieve the green mark or LEED or Lotus accreditation for to retrofit their building?
Well, it really depends. There are a number of different sections within which you can achieve points, and then you add the points up to get the appropriate grading. Depending on how the building was originally built, it's a matter of the areas that they feel are more important. What I'd rather see happen in the future is that developers look at primary sources such as the power supply, like I said, increasing ventilation, for example, and really just looking at the natural landscape. I mean, the building materials are already in place. There's very little that you can do to change that, and by changing them anyway would lead to further draws on power or the carbon footprint increasing. So, yes, there are many things you can do. Whether that would lead to an accreditation of some sort really depends on the particular project.
So, Melissa, you can share with me, about the commercial building going green. How about the residential building? Can it go green as well?
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things that we would look to for a residential building is just promoting the healthy aspects. Everybody wants their families to be living in and growing up in healthy buildings. And one of the things that we expect from green buildings and that we know about green buildings is that they're healthier. So there's a strong consumer reason for going into a green building. In Singapore, the government's been very good about educating the population about the benefits of green building, and that's probably changed that residential market a lot. I think in order to change it in Vietnam, we need to get the message out better to people about the benefits of green building and maybe more broadly. I think with the residential market maybe slowing up a little bit, the buyer will be a little choosier. They may start to ask for more green features in the marketplace now.
Okay. Can I say that the building with a lot of air ventilations with the natural lighting, is it one of the features of the green building? What else we have to do?
I'll tell you, it really depends on the sector of the building. In residential buildings, we're looking for good daylighting, natural ventilation, an easily cooled building, something that's naturally cool, so that we don't have to use a lot of air conditioning as well. Good daylighting obviously means that we don't have to use a lot of lighting power. These things are really quite easy to implement in a residential building. In an office building, natural ventilation really isn't going to be a possibility. So we might look for intelligent building systems. Do we have lighting controls? Do we have motion sensors, things like that? Do we have good building maintenance? Do we have good building management? There's so many different factors that we can look to, and each building segment is a little bit different.
Thank you. Thưa quý vị, bây giờ chúng ta tạm dừng cuộc trò chuyện này trong ít phút trước khi bước sang phần 2 của chương trình.